What's up, everybody? Welcome to my review of the newest DCEU film, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And we are now in the last leg of what we have been known to see as the DCEU before they reboot it and turn it into something different. Still don't have a 100% clear idea what that exactly is going to be, but I am excited for whenever we finally get a plan underway and we start to see one creator's vision actually followed through with in this universe, not just a bunch of scattershot things that unfortunately this universe has been for the past number of years. So with the original Shazam, I was actually a pretty big fan of that film, and I was one of its biggest naysayers. Back when the DCEU was just a gigantic question mark, when things were getting reshot and recut, and trailer companies were coming in to recut a film, and directors are leaving, when it was just a madhouse. Shazam was one of those properties where I'm like, who gives a fuck about Shazam? I don't care. And then I finally saw it, was surprised at how much I genuinely enjoyed it. It's still one of my favorite films in this universe. And the odd thing about that is that for as much as I enjoy the first film and what that first film delivered, I have had no excitement for this sequel. I don't think the trailers have been very good. The ones that I have seen have not excited me. The second trailer, which I did not watch by choice, it just happened to play in front of Scream 6, looked like it was the entire movie in 2 minutes, and after seeing the film, it absolutely was. And even after that, even after showing the entire film in the marketing, they even started to create TV spots that spoiled a major cameo and a scene that's literally almost the last scene of the film. It's just like, here's the ending, by the way, if the last trailer wasn't enough for you. And so that added in with the thing that I feel like a lot of us are feeling with this DC universe, to where we know this is not going to be continued. We know that we're just kind of trying to get out the last couple of remnants of the previous regime before we start anew. And so a lot of our investment, a lot of our excitement has been taken away from us, even if it's a property that we did enjoy. Aquaman, another one. Really enjoyed the first one. Don't give a fuck about the second one. The Flash, don't care. And so I walked into this not excited to see it, but hoping that I would at least have a good time, that it would at least bring some of the joy, some of the fun, some of the magic that I experienced in the first Shazam. And to start off with the positives, this is a very competently made, entertaining, family-friendly styled comic book film. I think that most people that go to see this, that take their kids to see this, that go with a date to go and check this out, are probably going to enjoy it more than those that don't. It's a movie that knows the type of film it's trying to be, just like the first Shazam, and there's many things from the first Shazam that are carried over here that are also done well. I think the characters are still fun. The actors in those roles are still having a lot of fun with them. You still get a nice mix of kind of a little bit more adolescent humor and adolescent situations, while also having some adult elements like some of the creature design and the things that clearly come from David F. Sandberg's horror history and his horror experience. And so I think that there is a little bit of everything for everybody in this film, and it will be widely appealing more than maybe some of the other more niche approaches that some of the DC Universe films have had, just like the first Shazam.
But I've seen all of the Fast and the Furious movies, lady. It's all about family.
I think that Jack Dylan Grazer is absolutely a standout in this. He was very entertaining in the previous film. He was very entertaining in It Chapter 1. And I think this movie actually kind of hinges on his shoulders, where Billy Batson has kind of taken a back seat, and we'll get into that more. He kind of takes more of the forefront, to where the character arc, the movie-long journey that you go on as far as wanting to see a conflict introduced and by the end see that resolved through character development, his character is the one that gets that this time around. And so I think that his performance was a lot of fun, that kind of fast-talking, neurotic side. I enjoyed that they kind of turned that up a little bit in this one. I think that his whole character arc with one of the newly introduced characters in this film was certainly intriguing for me. And by the end of it, as far as character arcs that are attempted in this film and themes that are attempted to be explored here, his is the only one that really felt like it came full circle by the end and was explored and earned. I really enjoyed all of the creature design for the things that start to come out in the third act. They were kind of demonic in the first film. Here, they're very much like mythological beasts. They look like things straight out of the God of War games. You got minotaurs and centaurs and evil unicorns and shit like that. And I thought it was really neat. It was creative. The CGI for them and just the design of them in general was really fun to see. And so with again, something I'll explain a little bit more here in a second, with the main villains not necessarily being the most interesting, I found myself getting more drawn to these little nameless cannon fodder characters that were just cool monster designs. And finally, for being a much more kid-centric, family-friendly, kind of toned down version of the DC universe that they've explored now 2 films in, I still think that this franchise does a pretty effective job at integrating itself into the greater DC universe. I mean, when you see things like Batman vs. Superman and the Zack Snyder's Justice League especially, and some of the dark things that happen in those movies, even the Suicide Squad, and you have Shazam name-dropping certain characters, interacting with certain characters that were a part of those films, at no point do I ever feel like it's ridiculous or it's silly or those tones and those characters don't match, their universes don't mingle. I think they do a pretty effective job at making it believable that this is still in the same universe, even if that universe is going bye-bye.
Aquaman is literally huge and he's so manly, and Batman is so cool, and I'm just me.
Moving out of the mix, there's only one element about this film that to me, I don't really know exactly where I stand on it, but it was hard to watch this movie and not see or feel the absence of the potential this could have had. With all of the buildup and all of the marketing and all of the hype machine that they started to create off of Black Adam, the movie that we got last year, and I was pretty unimpressed with that film. In hindsight, with seeing how that film went and now seeing how this film went, it baffles me why they continued to keep these franchises separate. I know that there was, certainly rumors or hints out there that it had to do with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and maybe his ego and wanting to keep his character outside of Shazam and not be a secondary character in somebody else's franchise. And I have certain feelings about that, but nonetheless, the fact that we got Black Adam and then we get a Shazam film less than a year later, it feels ridiculous that in both of these films, they don't name drop each other, they don't interact with each other, there's no hints, there's no even Easter eggs that they're eventually going to fight or interact. To me, gigantic missed opportunity for both Black Adam and Shazam to not have framed the second film for Shazam and the first film for Black Adam to be some kind of a confrontation in some way. Especially when you look at the villains that we did get in this film, it just feels like, guys, you got fucking Black Adam right there. What are we doing? Now, maybe there were grander plans for later on. Maybe what we have, been led to believe with certain interviews and certain assumptions and rumors is not factual. Maybe Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson absolutely intended on fighting Shazam. Seemed like he just wanted to fight Superman. But nonetheless, while I don't know what the plan is, and so I can't comment 100% on what they should have done or what they should not have done, it just felt weird to me to have both these characters introduced that are quite literally each other's counterpart, and in both films, they act like the other doesn't exist. And now moving on to the negatives. And look, the major overarching feeling that I have for this film is specifically a me thing. Now, I don't think I'm alone in this. I actually think I'm in very good company in this, but it's not necessarily a reflection on overt flaws in this film. I do think this is inferior to the first film, but I don't think it's a significant drop. I don't think it's like this is a terrible sequel or it's a gigantic quality dip. But I'm in a state now, and this film absolutely solidified it for me, that I am just burnout on these types of comic book films. I am so sick of them. I'm somebody that used to get pumped every single time there was a new MCU film, every single time there was a new DC film, whether I knew anything about those characters or not, whether I thought the trailers were 100% great or not, I was always excited to go and check them out and to see what was going to be good or bad about them, or to see what new elements were brought to them. And over the past couple of years, and I put most of the blame of this on Marvel with just oversaturating the hell out of the market with their Disney Plus shows and the amount of movies that they've been pushing out over the past number of years, just good enough is not good enough anymore for me. If these movies don't do something to differentiate themselves from each other, to do something unique or bold, or have some kind of stylistic difference to make it stand out amongst the 36 other movies that feel like Shazam! Fury of the Gods, I just don't care anymore. Even if it's good, even if it's entertaining, even if it's a decent time at the movies, I'm just numb to it. And so the entire time I was watching this film, I was just flatlined. I'm just watching this going, every single element of this film, I have seen before. I've seen numerous times, and I saw that within the last couple of months. I felt the same way about Black Adam. I watched Black Adam and I'm like, I've seen this movie before. Everything in here I've seen before. There's nothing new about it. Yeah, there's like tiny little differences, but other than that, this is a meal that I have been force-fed so many times over the past couple of years. And I don't care how well you cook the meal, if you're force-feeding me the same meal over and over and over and over again, I don't care how good it's cooked, I want something different to eat. And so I'm currently at a point to where if it's not something that is really fresh and unique for just the overall genre, like the Batman or the way Deadpool was, or, you know, even to a degree, Suicide Squad going a little bit more adult, just some bold element, Logan, something that's just unique and fresh and unlike things that you have recently seen, I just don't have any interest in it. And so I really, really hope and pray that whenever James Gunn kicks off this new era of DC films, I hope he fucking kills it. I hope that these movies are so damn good and so fresh and so unique and such a breath of fresh air that it not only gives you movies that are fresh and unique and a breath of fresh air, but they're finally going to be some kind of genuine competition for the MCU to make them get off of their ass and actually put forth a little bit more effort to do more than just what they've succeeded at for the past decade and a half. Nothing but love for the MCU, but they've gotten complacent. And so that's my overarching feeling with this film. It's not this film's fault. It's not like there's genuinely a ton of huge issues with this movie that just turned me off. I'm just fucking burnt. I mean, it's to the point where I don't even rewatch comic book films that I love anymore because I'm just so tired of them. I have not rewatched a film that I loved in theaters in this genre since Avengers Endgame. It's been that long since I've been at home and you're like, you know what I'm in the mood for right now? A comic book film, because I haven't seen those in a long time. Now, moving on from that to some genuine issues that I actually did have with this film. And one of them kind of ties into what I just talked about, and that's the fact that for whatever reason in this sequel, they decided to get rid of the one primary ingredient of Shazam that actually made Shazam somewhat stand out as unique. And that is the whole concept of a kid getting the powers of a superhero and having to navigate what to do with that. That was one of the most fresh, unique, and fun elements of the first Shazam. This 13, 14-year-old kid with a lot of his own personal issues that now suddenly has the powers of Superman and has to figure out what to do that, and has, you know, immaturity issues and is goofing around and having fun, but now you actually have to save the world, motherfucker. What are we gonna do? I love that element. It's gone in this movie. Billy Batson as a character maybe has 5 minutes of screen time in this film. The rest of it is just Zachary Levi. And so that entire whole angle of Shazam that drew me to the character in the first place, now it's gone and it's just good capes versus bad capes and CGI fests. As if we don't have dozens of those to choose from just the past 12 months. And going along with that, so you have, you know, years since the first Shazam has come out, these kids that they cast in the first movie have grown up significantly. Some have had some serious growth spurts. And so even within the movie, Billy Batson is no longer a kid. He's about to be 18 years old. And yet, Zachary Levi's performance does not advance or mature whatsoever. He's actually turned up from the first film. All of his goofiness and neuroticness and his quips and everything, which are fun, they were fun in the first film, they don't match the character anymore. No 18-year-old acts like that. I know 18-year-olds are still immature as shit. They're nowhere near adults, even though legally they are. But his personality and the things that he goes to and his dialogue and his quips, they fit a 14-year-old. They don't fit an 18-year-old. And so I even feel like Zachary Levi's performance in the film feels out of place.
I just threw a truck at a dragon. I love my life.
The two villains that we get in this movie, Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu, I didn't think were anything to write home about. Those are two fantastic actresses. And I feel like they should have been able to do so much more, and so I just don't think they were given much to do. They're just ancient evil people that want to suddenly rule the world and get this scepter back and get the powers back. And so Helen Mirren is very, you know, subdued most of the movie, and Lucy Liu is more kind of the hyperactive character. And then by the end of the film, like the entire third act, she's just flying around on a dragon like Game of Thrones. There's even like a line that acknowledges it where he goes to punch her and he's like, "Hey, Khaleesi!" But that's exactly what it is. Like even in the third act, when your villain is supposed to be most villainous, she's just flying around on this CGI dragon for 20, 30 minutes. And so no matter what their plan was, no matter what they were succeeding with, any of the little twists and turns that they tried to integrate along the way, I just never found it to be that engaging because I never found them to be that engaging. And the first film didn't necessarily have a good villain or something to write home about either, but damn, you got those two actresses and gave them those roles? Why? There's also quite a few character arcs and themes that they attempt to explore here that feels like things were either left on the cutting room floor or they were just afterthoughts that were put in there to try to attempt to have the character of Billy Batson feel relevant to this movie, even though he's absolutely not. There's this whole thing about him now fearing that he is aging out of the foster system, and so he's a little bit worried about losing this family that he gained, which, you know, was a big element of the first film. And that just feels forced the entire movie. It never really feels like this actual genuine drama with the character or something that's actually central to what Shazam is struggling with throughout the film. They just kind of bring it up in the beginning and there's sprinkles of it and then they address it at the end. And even more so, kind of attached to that, there's this thing that's kind of brought up between him and his foster mother to where he's the only foster kid that doesn't call her mom. He calls her by her first name. And they're like, just give it time. He'll come around. It'll be okay. And they never bring that up again until the third act of the film, whenever he's suddenly like, "I love you, Mom." And she's like, "Ah." And I'm like, what the fuck? You didn't develop that at all. Like, what changed between those two characters from Act 1 to Act 3 to now merit him suddenly having that change of heart or having that, you know, increase of heart? I don't know. It felt so weird to where when they brought it up again, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And I brought it up, but I got to bring it up again because it's something that I'm just getting increasingly annoyed with the more that I continue to cover films. The marketing is just a joke for this film. I mean, I never thought the trailers were very good. That's one hit against it, but I cannot stand this trend that we're continuing to see rise in modern movie advertisement to where they're just like, here's the whole fucking movie, guys. Here's the entire movie. Here's Act 1, 2, and 3 and a bunch of third act shit. And here's the ending scene as well. Oh, cameo? You didn't get the cameo? Here, we'll throw that in too. To me, that's just absolutely destroys my interest in a movie. I've had many films in the horror industry, in the horror genre, excuse me, be destroyed by marketing because every twist, turn, and surprise and scare is shown in the marketing. That's one of the reasons why I actually don't watch many trailers for horror anymore. Unless it's a big premiere one like Scream or Halloween, I'll watch the first trailer. But I don't tend to watch trailers anymore because it's just, it's a trend that I cannot stand. And now 2 movies in a row with Black Adam and Shazam, I don't know if it's just a lack of faith that the company has in this film actually performing well or what the hell's going on. But even in Black Adam, by the end of it, I mean, The Rock might as well have just come out on social media and be like, all right, guys, come watch Black Adam and Superman this weekend. And then this one's the exact same thing. They're like, here's everything you need to know about this film. Well, I don't need to go see it then. And it's one thing to have a cameo spoiled. It's whatever at this point. I'm almost numb to cameos at this point. But when a character's presence in a film is actually something that solves a major plot point and a major conflict that is introduced in the third act, that at that point, you're just undercutting your entire story to where actually the director and the star of this film were actively on social media telling people, don't watch any more marketing, they're fucking my movie up. We live in a world where that happens, where the director's like, you fucked it all up. You're destroying our work and you are killing the experience that we have tried to create for this audience. Stop it! So all in all, guys, this movie's fine. Like, it's not too much different than the experience that I had with Ant-Man and Quantumania, where I'm like, oh, that was entertaining enough for 2 hours. But it's just, I am so burnt out and exhausted and just overstimulated from these types of films to where the magic just doesn't work on me anymore. The entertainment value doesn't work on me anymore. Just good enough isn't good enough for me anymore. So if you love Shazam, if you do not have the fatigue that I currently have, absolutely go check this out. I think you're going to enjoy it. If you're like me And if you didn't like Shazam, you're not going to like this one. But if you're like me and you're just kind of burnt of movies of this type and it's just not working for you anymore, maybe wait for it to hit streaming. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this, please click over here for all of my 2023 new release reviews so far. And I'm also going to put my most recent DC Universe ranking up here as well. It's a little old, but enjoy that. Like and share and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss everything in the future. We got Dungeons & Dragons, John Wick, and then Super Mario Brothers coming out here very soon. Thank you for watching, and remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.